Chelsea. Welcome to the Sip and Sit. It is such a pleasure to be with you today because I've been keeping up with you, of course, on the show OMG Fashion, as well as your Instagram. And I can say that you are so creative in everything that you do. But I want to know, how would you describe your sense of fashion?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. That was, I appreciate the affirmations. But the way I would describe my style is it's a collage of a lot of things. So, um, I am, I love contemporary art. I love hip hop culture, streetwear, sneaker culture, fashion. A lot of these things they have encompassed like who I am as a designer. So that's really what it is. I'm not gonna say I'm androgynous or super girly girl. No, I'm just a collage of a bunch of things, and I'm a walking mood board. So that's what I would say.
I love how you say a walking billboard because you are. I mean, your fashions have been seen all on the runway and, of course, OMG Fashion. So, with you being from the windy city of Chicago, how would you describe where you got your inspiration from for fashion?
Well, number one, it had to do with representation.
Mhm.
So growing up, I didn't see a lot of people look like me dominating the fiber industry, contemporary art, So I felt like a fish out of water when I first stepped into this game. And so moving forward, the inspiration I got was I want to try to see if I can be the best of the best and then represent for my people and then come back to my city and overall educate and inspire those around me. And so Chicago, I could truly say me being from Chicago is a testament to that. Just the grit, the grind, the hustle. That's why I'm who I am, and that's why I keep going.
How has the support been for you from your community in Chicago as they saw you on OMG Fashion? How has the support been for you?
Well, them seeing the marketing because the show hasn't aired yet. They often tell me that I've truly inspired Chicago and that overall that everybody is just very proud of me. They're all rooting for me. And they told me, I've been told many times that um thank God that I stepped into what I'm doing because it has inspired other people to chase their dreams. So they said I'm representing Chicago well and they just can't wait to see what I do next. So shout out to Chicago.
And shout out to Chi-Town, and you are doing your thing and putting your city on the map. Now, I want to dive in to your run on the show. What were your thoughts going into this fashion competitions? Because we see so many competitions, but not like OMG Fashion. So, what were your thoughts getting into this competition?
Well, number one, I felt blessed because nobody knows just how long it takes to get on a show like this. Like I just felt blessed to be there. It's an opportunity of a lifetime. And so I really went into it I just wanted to have fun and showcase my talent. And hopefully the judges would like that. And they did because I ended up winning. But honestly, I just went into it and I didn't want to stress myself out or psych myself out. If I was chose to be on the show, then that meant that I was there for a reason. And so let's just have fun and let me represent my city well, but represent myself and my artistry well. So that's ultimately how I went into the show.
I like when you say, you wanted to have fun and represent your city, which has supported you through everything from the time you started to designing to up until now. I want to dive in about the stylist challenge. You were styling Miss Julia Fox. And in one particular designing challenge, you had to use scarves. So
Yes.
tell me, without needle and thread, now tell me, what was your mind going into this? Like, okay, I got to use scarves to design this look for Julia Fox. What was your ultimate reaction upon hearing that?
Well, I just wanted to make sure that my model came down the runway covered because the scarves they were small and I was trying to figure out how can I make this work without needle, without thread, without being able to utilize the tools that I'm normally using, like crocheting or knitting or whatever, right? So I ultimately just wanted to have her walk down the runway with something wearable and then also showcase my style, which is why you see the ski mask and the flowers and all of that. But yeah, I just really wanted to make sure that my model came down with something that was wearable, but also something that kind of expressed my unique style. Did it turn out that way? I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure, but we did something. Oh, you're muted.
What was your ultimate reaction when you heard the judges critique the first challenge? What did that feel like? Were you upset, or did you feel like, I could have did better? But ultimately, you were the winner out of everything. So what was like your mindset? How did you feel hearing the judges critiques?
Well, number one, my stomach dropped to like the pit of my feet. Okay. But right after that, again, I come from Chicago. Like, you get hit with a challenge, you got to figure out what is plan B. So in my head, I was thinking, what will be this pivot and how am I going to do my best? Initially, I believe in the first challenge, I was psyching myself out a little bit. I was overthinking. And sometimes when you overthink as a creative, it can shift your design style. And so I knew for a fact going into the second challenge, I just wanted to redeem myself, but redeem myself in a way that meant I trusted my gut. And
Mhm.
so that's what it really was. It was like going into the second challenge. Yes, I got a bad critique, but let's redeem ourselves. Let's trust my gut and see what happens.
Yes, and you did redeem yourself because the design challenge where you had to use all of these baby items, and I'm trying to figure out how are they going to incorporate all of this stuff. What was your mindset going into seeing like baby items, just everything for your particular design? How did you feel about that?
Well, number one, it made me chuckle a lot. Like, I was cracking up because I'm like, how are we gonna use these breast pumps? I feel like I knew what I could do with the baby blankets, but the other stuff I was like, I don't know. But I studied at SCAD, so being at
Yes.
SCAD, they kind of always taught me to not abandon my work, which means try and try again until something clicks. And so that's really what I was going into the second challenge thinking when it came to these materials is like, how am I going to figure something out? Like, let's just have some fun and let's see what we do. Like, I'm not going to fail, you know, I'm trying my best. And if my best is not good enough, then whatever, but at least I know that I tried. So that's how I went into that.
How did you feel from you trying and putting together this masterpiece, this work of art, when you saw your model walk out there with your creation? How did that feel for you?
I mean, I was proud, but I was also nervous because I hoped that Law was proud of me. So I was proud of my work. I think I had a chance to finish a little bit early and just take a moment back to really admire my work before we went out on stage. So I was really proud. I was proud of what I came up with. Sure, I was nervous because I hope that Julia and Law and Wisdom would be pleased. But at the end of the day, I was very, very proud. And the model, she liked what she had on too.
Yes, and it was so fly. It was slaying on the scene, as I like to say. So, with my last question is, what's next for you? You've been on OMG Fashion, you are doing your thing. What is next for you, Chelsea, for this year?
I mean, number one is elevating my brand, but also, allowing my audience and the new followers and the people who are following my journey to really get to know who I am. It's not just a designer because I don't really consider myself as just a designer. I'm an artist that fell into fashion. So ultimately, it's just elevating my brand and then just introducing the world more of who Chelsea B is and what I can do.
Yes, and I cannot wait to see what you do because I have to get you to design and crochet something for me. I'm from the South, so hey, I love supporting all of my female designers, and I cannot wait to see what you do next. And I got to get you back onto the Sip and Sip podcast because you have a lot of talent, and I just know you're gonna be bigger than what you are right now. Just keep God first and continue to use what he has given you as a gift to use to the world.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right, we're ready to get started. Hi, Theo. Welcome to the Sip and Sip podcast. It is just an honor to have you on because your style, your creativity, I mean, you slay for the gods, honey, the fashion.
Oh, you're so sweet. That means a lot.
Yes. So tell me, how did you first, what were your first thoughts going into the show?
Ooh, too many. First thoughts. Very first thought was like, I got on the show, have to impress myself and my family and my friends and everybody who's rooting for me to get on. But yeah, just to show what I have because this is my chance, you know.
Yes, yes. And you took that chance because we saw your miraculous style and design, and you ended up winning
Yeah.
both challenges. Now, I want to ask you, where did your inspiration for fashion come from?
Yeah, I realized we never had much money growing up, so it was always like make the best of what you had. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's literally that, right? That's what upcycling is. So I think my whole life I've technically been upcycling. I remember we had a free dress day was my thing at school whenever we didn't have uniform, and I was
Mm-hmm.
always trying to serve a look. I was always like, "Oh, do this, like bring something this one day you're not wearing uniform, like let them know who you are." So I think that stuck, like that sticks today.
And it does because, it's like you think back to when you were a kid and you always serving, and now look at you serving on a national television show for fashion for creatives. And did you ever think that you would ever get to this moment?
Yes, I'm allowed to say that now, right? Let's not. Yes, of course. Dreaming is so unfair because dreaming is only a dream if it doesn't happen, right?
Mhm.
Because if it happens, it's a it happened. It's not a dream anymore. But yes, I did. So funniest thing is I learned a lot of my fashion knowledge on
Mhm.
watching stuff growing up, and so when I found out it was on it's like a full circle moment of like, oh my gosh, you guys taught me so much, and here I am like using the skills.
Yes.
So woof.
Now let's talk about the show OMG Fashion, which airs every Monday night on E. And I wanted to talk about these challenges because, when I'm watching it, I was like, oh my gosh, how they're going to create. I can't even put two sticks together to create anything fashion. So I want to talk about the first styling challenge, and you had to take a hoodie and create it to make it look couture and be very chic. So tell me, what was going through your mind with that first challenge?
At first, I remember I was really excited. Well, I forget which came first, but the color. I didn't know how I felt about the color. It was a
Mm.
color I don't go for usually. Even though red is my power color, like maroon like that was kind of hard
Mm-hmm.
for me, and it feels not as elevated. So that my first thought was like, oh, a hoodie plus it's maroon. But then I was like, I use hoodies a lot, so I should be used to this. So
Mm-hmm.
then it became the thing of how do I not use it because I'm so do something different. So I just figured keep a little bit of the essence of the hoodie so people know, but then change it up so much they're like, oh, I didn't know.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
think that's what stood out because it was like when your model came out there, I was like, "Ooh, okay." That
Yeah.
I did not know. Come on,
You would
Theo,
serve
let's
that.
get it, hun. How did you feel about the judges that just basically saying that you hit the mark with
Yeah.
with that style?
This is how you really have to stick to your guns because I remember backstage thinking I was so insecure. I still didn't like it that much, but in your heart you're like, I like it. Like that's usually my thing. You know,
Mhm.
as a designer stylist, you're your own model usually. So usually I'm putting stuff on top of myself and trying it on.
Mhm.
But for this it was not my size, so I couldn't really do that. So I had to keep imagining, will my model look good in it? So then when I put her in it, I was like, okay, this is Theo. But then still the every my contestants, Randy and Desiree, were serving too. So I was like,
Mhm.
uh-oh, you don't know still. So whoever judged first when their first words came out, I was like, "Oh, y'all, you liked it. You liked it. Okay." That's when I decided how I felt too. I was like, "You liked it? Okay,
Mhm.
I liked it too. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
Yeah."
And,
So
and
it
and
was
I mean, it completely blew my mind because when I think about the creation and everything that you do, and I see your Instagram, I'm like, oh my God, he is so creative. It is something about fashion is just life, and you brought that
I love
hoodie
that.
to life. You brought it
Mm.
to life. Now, I want to know, with you stepping into the design studio, what were your first thoughts? Like, oh my God, is this real? Am I here? Like, what were your first thoughts?
That's what it was. I mean, I've always dreamed of being on a reality show. So that moment of walking into the room and your reaction, I was like, oh my gosh, you're here. It felt so childlike, like being in like a theme park or just, fantasy world. I was like, oh my gosh. And then we were all saying it's all so much nicer of stuff than we even have at home. And we all
Hmm.
joked that, we're used to working on the floor. They had all these big, beautiful tables and workspaces. And then most of the time you see us on the floor because that's what we're used to at home. So it was almost too nice. That's what I think. I kept thinking. Somebody asked me what the hardest challenge was, and it was, you know, picking what to use because there's so much stuff. I
Hmm.
always say I work from nothing, so
Hmm.
having everything was like, oh, I don't know. I, yeah, it was
And you
really
did
hard.
work with nothing into something because I want to shift into the main challenge extravaganza, which you had to use random pieces from like a junk drawer, from zip ties to just everything that you can think of. Seeing all of that and knowing that you had to create something couture, especially using wigs for the Julia Fox.
Hmm.
What was going through your mind? Were you nervous? Were you stressed? What was the tea, Theo?
Both sides, because again, if people look at my work, of course, it's always um unconventional, but usually you pick the stuff. So somebody picking it for you is almost like someone ordering your dinner and you're just
Hmm.
having to eat what you like. So then I was like, oh no, but you have to eat all these 5 dishes. So I had to slowly. It's like that thing, you eat the stuff you don't like first. So I started
Yes.
like taking away. Oh, I can do this. I can do this. But yeah, I think the hair part was a good part because I love hair. If I were in another
Yes.
world, I would be a hairstylist. So that's why when I saw the wig, I was like, okay, this is kind of me. You got to make,
Hmm.
like, if you fail now it's embarrassing because this is
Hmm.
in my house. So yeah, it was like familiar things and unfamiliar things and just having to make it work for Julia. But again, that's like the homework. I'm really good at homework. If it's for
Hmm.
Julia, I will make it for Julia in a short time frame.
I mean, and you with that short time frame, like when they kept coming on the PA system, oh, you have an hour left. What was going through your mind? Was it like in a time crunch? Because I can't imagine being under pressure trying to create a couture look
Hmm.
in the very little time.
Hmm. I feel like if I was a younger person, I would be more stressed. But I think getting older, it made me just push my like the time frame was like, okay, well you have to decide because I'm really
Hmm.
decisive. I'm realizing, so like the time frame was just like, okay, the closer the time comes, just make a decision because I hate to say it's gonna serve something. So I just need that somebody to end it so that I
Hmm.
can stop making new things. So I think that's the thing Law said. He said I kind of over accessorize. And so I was like, yeah, I was take one away, but that's when you have too much time on your hands. You put
Hmm.
one thing on, you put too many earrings on, and it's like, ugh, if you cut me 5 minutes ago, I wouldn't have done that.
Oh
So
yes. What do you
yeah.
think was the out of both challenges? What was the hardest part of everything?
I think the we were saying the hardest for the first it was the first challenge because there was no sewing. Um
Mm.
and you would think that's easy, but then we came to a competition to sew. So we we were all ready to sew and we had all these ideas and it was like, okay, no, you're basic today. Like go do basic things. And you're like, oh my God, how do I serve even though I have to be, how do I serve with a basic technique?
Yes.
So, but very high school again, we all said like it was the safety pins and the cutting. That's
Hmm.
all that, Ed Hardy, Von Dutch stuff from like aging myself here. But back in the day, like you cut up a t-shirt, make a sexy, you
Yes.
know? So it's kind of staying away from that, but updating it so it's for Julia Fox and
Hmm.
yeah.
And I mean, it just you ran with it because the outcome. It was a little twist that you had to take something away. Now you have to incorporate ropes and chains, and like you had one look going on. Now you had to change. It's like they just threw you a fashion curveball, and you had to make lemons out of lemonade.
Mm-hmm. I think we did though. I mean, I look back now and if I was seeing myself, I was starting to braid some of the wire to make the bag strap.
Hmm.
That wasn't giving. So when that chain came up, I was like, oh, this is gonna save me maybe. It's like that like reality show moment of the curveball kind of maybe saved me. So
Yes.
I liked it.
And I love the whole look, and it gave like couture, like I was going to the Met Gala
Yes.
extravaganza. I
Yeah.
was going to RuPaul's Drag Race, the
Oh
finale.
my
It
gosh.
gave
Yes.
everything from the colors, and the wig bag, because I love me some hair. And I when I saw the wig bag, I thought that was genius. And how did it feel to have such great critiques of your couture extravaganza gown?
Again, shook because you only want to you thought you were done. I won the first one.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, you had your win, you can lose now. So I was, and then they kind of had it was iffy because I know this is where I was selfish as a designer because I was trying to push my vision. I
Mhm.
didn't think as Julia for this one, and I think they noticed that. But in that same way, as a designer, you want to push people in a new direction. So I
Mhm.
kept thinking, oh my god, this would look so good on her if only she had the moment. So like, I
Yes.
think they turned around. They saw like, my stuff. I want you to look at it and like you have to grow to like it.
Mhm.
It can't be right away. You have to be like, ooh, 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 like little details here and there. So I think that's what it was. They saw it there standing in front of them for a minute, and she got to like absorb it more. And she was like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, this is it. I love this.
And I loved the colors, the scheme. It was so on point. You hit the mark
Ah!
with that, especially like for Julia Fox. And hearing them say that you won and you got so emotional. How was that moment for you to say, you know what, I actually made it. I did this. What was that like for you?
The whole time I told myself to not pressure myself. I told myself this is an art retreat. This is like
Mhm.
a free experience to create art with fun people. Like no pressure at the
Mhm.
end of it. So I think every time I got there, like the first win was like that of like, oh, okay, like my okay, and then this next one was like, oh, oh my, like it shook me even more. And so this to now, I think I haven't cried all the tears yet. I have to watch it one more time because like it's like graduation of life.
Ooh,
You
yes.
graduation high school, college, and this is like I am this person today,
Mhm.
and you guys all agree. Like, hello world, I'm here. So
And
amazing.
you are here, and you are here. You are the moment, as they said. So what's next for you, Theo? What is your next big project? I know with this platform, it has catapulted you in front of so many models, so many other designers, and now just to have that moment and bask in it. What else?
Totally. I realize even more on the show. I love collaboration because I made the best friends of my life on the show, like lifelong friends and my other designers from other episodes, and I realize I want to keep working with more designers in a collaborative way. I think we forget that small designers are usually just one person. That's what I laugh about. I met people on the show that I was like, oh my gosh, I thought you were a 10 designer team, and they're just one person in their house doing their thing. So I think when you realize that we're all alone, it's nice to help each other out because then you're more together, right?
Yes.
So a lot of stuff with my co-designers from the show. Me and Desiree and Randy hang out all the time. We're gonna have some stuff coming soon. So yeah,
I
collaborations with more designs.
Oh, yes, and I cannot wait to see that. Congratulations on
Thanks.
your moment. And we can't wait to see future episodes of OMG Fashion that airs every Monday night on E. Thank you so much, Theo, for coming on to the Sip and Sip podcast.
Thanks,
Thank
Ashley.
you. I also want to talk about, you stepping into OMG Fashion. What was it like coming into this competition? How did you take just being on a platform where you can express yourself and so many people can see you, Carlos, as the designer? How was that stepping into this platform?
And stepping into this platform was incredibly intimidating at first. However, I'm very confident. So I know that because I have a very specific point of view, there isn't really competition because there isn't anybody that I know that does what I do. Nonetheless, the other competitors are just like that too. Asato has a point of view and aesthetic that I have never seen before. So it's intimidating in that sense, but knowing that if I just trust in my own process and trust that what I've done in the past to succeed is going to pull me forward, then that's all I can do and just like try my best.
And trying your best, you catapulted that. I think you overturned the competition. You brought something that nobody has ever seen before, and I think that what sets you out to be the winner of the competition as well. Now I want to jump into the style challenge where you had to turn a basic pair of jeans into like a slaying on the scene garment. What was your vision of your own design with that?
That's a great question. So in the show, I talked a little bit about how I never used denim, and so that was already really scary. And so that kind of made me think, and aside of the premise of the other uh like things in the challenge, if we couldn't sew it, it could only be glued and safety pinned. and I don't use denim. So it's just like so many things working against me. And I was like, okay, you know what? Let me try mural work. So what I did was like I made these little frames that were on the garment that were framing Catholic symbols. So I was like, okay, let me just make a garment out of that because this frame idea is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. I just hadn't, had the pull to do it. And then this was a good moment to experiment because this is the first time I've done something like this. I wasn't sure if it was going to be successful. I was shaking in my boots going into the judging portion because I wasn't sure how they were going to react to it because it could look very childish and not put together because it's not sewn. But luckily, they had a good response towards it. So
I mean, when I first saw the Julia came out, and I was just blown away. The thought of your creativity was something that I've never ever seen before, and it worked because that will be something that Julia Fox would wear. And I love how you use your Catholic religion and background to really catapult that design. How did it feel when the judges were critiquing your style challenge look? They said that the elements were off. What was your feeling about that?
the elements were off as far as the styling, you mean? Like with the shoes and like
With the
the
shoes, yes.
Yes, I completely agree. So backstage, we didn't have, and this isn't an excuse. I could have picked something better, and this is on me. But there wasn't like a lot of stuff to pick from, first of all. And um, I was thinking in my mind, I didn't even focus on the fact that it was like, oh, the shoes matter. I was just like, oh, throw a black pump on there. Let's like have her walk, whatever. I wasn't even thinking of that. So that's my bad. Like all their critiques are so valid. Like now looking back, I'm like, why did I pick that ugly shoe? Like why did I not? And I even for the styling challenge, I had made a crown of thorns out of denim for the look. Just didn't
Mm,
end up using it because I was like,
wow.
oh, this isn't necessary. Like I just did like a bunch of bad decisions.
Mhm, mhm.
Thankfully, the garment itself is what saved me, but it taught me to be more mindful about styling, which is something that I know I need to work on.
And but you know what? You ended up winning the style challenge. How was that moment for you when they say you have won the style challenge? And you kind of, I know you were like, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to be myself with my designs. How was that moment for you?
A shocking, because I went
Wow.
into it shaking in my boots, thinking, "Oh, they're gonna hate this," and I just embarrassed myself on TV. Like I can't believe it because I'm classically trained. I like to be sewing with a machine with like a needle and thread in hand, like, and then putting me into the situation where I'm gluing and pinning things is like it's not me. The denim isn't me. Nothing about this is me. But I hope I turn it out just solely on aesthetic and a prayer, and it worked. So. I'm so grateful that they liked it, and it also taught me to like trust my instinct a little bit because it's
Mhm,
a little bit of a childish idea. I just like picked the first thing that came to mind and then did it, no hesitation. And
mhm.
so kind of taught me to trust my instinct.
And you did trust your instinct and heavy on, on a prayer too, because it was like going into this challenge, not being able to sew. I could not imagine like what was going through your head at that time. I want to pivot into thrusting into the design studio. What were your first thoughts walking in there and seeing everything that you can just create? It felt like, a mall going into the design studio for a designer. So how was that for you?
Really exciting. Really exciting, very intimidating because I know that Deborah and Asato are really cool designers and they have their own specific point of view and but at the same time I can't pay attention to them. Like I can't mind them any thought. I just have to focus on what I'm doing and deliver the best. Um and hit the ground running. There wasn't a moment where I was delaying. I was thinking about 3 steps ahead of what I was doing now, so then I could mentally prepare and then get stuff ready, make sure that the scissors are close to me, because they only give us that, the few hours that they gave us to make a full head-to-toe garment. So Yeah.
If that was me, I would need a whole month or a year because I could not fathom the pressure that you all had to go through to create this design. Now I want to jump into the big design, the design challenge, and you had to come up with a unique design for Miss Julia Fox, honey. And using a nun's habit, painting of the Last Supper, like all these biblical intricacies. What were your thoughts going into this design? How did you come up with your garment? What was going through your mind?
A lot was going through my mind. So there's a lot of prerequisites that they wanted to have in the garment. They wanted to have like these five particular items interwoven into the design in some type of a way. I had to deliver something that was saintly and then something that was a little sinful. It's a lot that they're asking, like a lot of ideas in one garment. So it's like I had to sit down and think, how am I going to deliver this in an effective way that could communicate easily to not only the judges, but to any audience member. And so I just thought, okay, let me do like a very classic silhouette with some like exciting elements to them. So then I did like this veil. The concept that I ended up doing was a rendition of Saint Lucy, and Saint Lucy is the patron saint of the blind. She's often depicted with her eyes on a plate. And so I was thinking, like, why don't I make a clutch that has like little eyes? It's like a cloud with eyes. It's like, and she's holding it. And then she has her eyes covered, they're a little bloodied because her eyes have been gouged, and then just make like this holy saint figure. Um, and so yeah, into the judging portion, I guess.
And it worked because seeing your creation, your design, you had to convey a story of Julia's style within the design, and I thought it was so cool. But then Miss Deborah came up with using the same inspirational concept for the challenge. Were you surprised? And how did you feel about that?
I wasn't surprised in any way, and like given that Deborah and I are two completely different designers, I wasn't worried because I know that she has her own aesthetic and I have my own aesthetic. So we're already doing something that's under the religious umbrella, doing something that's like saintly or sinner, whatever. So we're already doing something similar. I'm not worried about what she's doing. Again, like I'm not focusing. She can do it if she wants. She can like pivot if she wants. I knew that I was going to do it anyways, and it wasn't going to be a rule against both of us doing it. So I wasn't worried. I knew that we could both turn out something beautiful and completely different.
And completely different that it was. Now my favorite part was the twist, and you all had to put in a twist of confessing a sin with your design. Now in my head I'm like, okay, oh, a sin, woo, how did you come up with the sin with lust?
Hmm. So lust, that's a great question. I was just thinking that like there's multiple things that were drawing me to the sin of lust. It's something that we can all relate to. First of all, on the main stage, Julia mentioned like, oh, does it have to do with love? Like, have you been heartbroken in the past? And it's like, yes. And I know that's something that also like a lot of people would be able to relate to. Lust, it's also like very surface level. It's kind of like sexy, like it's a sexy sin. And I find Julia to be like a very sexy persona. She loves to show off skin. So it's like it was just hitting like a lot of checks in my head as opposed to the other sins very quickly. So pick that one and I was good to go.
And I mean, good to go. It ran with it because it gave me Catholic Met Gala extravaganza. That's what it gave me. And your design was so well intricate. I mean, the thought that you put into it. And were you disappointed with the judges' critique saying it was not enough? Because I felt it was well enough. That will be something I would wear. What was your interpretation when they said that it wasn't enough?
It was a shock at first because I was very confident and I really loved the garment and I stood by it. However, they brought up like amazing points. Of course, in the moment I was very shocked and like sad, but in retrospect, it's absolutely everything that I needed to hear as a designer. They mentioned like the concept could have been a little gimmicky in the way that I presented it, and I could see that because as a fashion designer, I need to be focusing a lot on like fabric manipulation, and I need to figure out like a silhouette that maybe we haven't seen before. And they're looking for fashion disruptors, and maybe Law Roach has seen like the best of the best when it comes to fashion, and so has Julia. So they might have like this worldview of the potential of fashion that's like maybe wider than mine. So I'm trusting what they say, and okay, like certain things didn't hit the nail on the head, and I understand that. It was a shock, but I appreciate the critiques tenfold.
And with this shock, and you appreciated the critiques because you actually won the competition. You were the moment. How was that when they said you are the moment?
Yes, that was also shocking because I was thinking that my critiques were harsh and I was like, oh, maybe I didn't win it. Okay, it's probably going to go to Asato or Deborah. But the moment that I won, I was just so thankful because these bills have to get paid and I need
Yes.
to start focusing on my fashion show. So in September, I'm going to be showing for New York Fashion Week at a cathedral in Chelsea. So very
Wow.
in line.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. So, it'll be September 10th at the St. Paul's Cathedral in Chelsea, and I'm very excited. And the tickets will be available at renacio.com. That's renacio.com soon. But that money is just going towards that. It's going towards helping me create a vision and helping me kind of like, if you liked what I did on the show, watch what I can do whenever I don't have just 5 minutes to make something.
Oh, yes. And I cannot wait to see what you do next. What is next for you? What do you want the people to know about Carlos and moving forward in fashion? What do you want people to know you as? What kind of legacy that you want to leave in fashion?
I want to leave very easy question. It's just like authenticity. Like if you feel a pull towards wearing a specific thing, don't be afraid to do it because everybody is kind of afraid to wear certain things. So if you kind of start the trend that way, like be the brave person that wears this kind of kooky thing, in 2 months, everybody's gonna be wearing it. Be a trendsetter, do what you want with fashion. It could seem so frivolous and like it doesn't matter, but it resonates culturally. Fashion is something that's been so important in anthropology throughout history. So wear what you want. It's super important.
Yes, I love that. And be unapologetic.
Exactly.
Be unapologetic. Carlos, thank you so much for coming on the Sip and Sip podcast. I cannot wait to see what you do at Fashion Week coming up
I'm
later
excited.
on this year. And I know that you will continue to leave your mark in fashion. And please make sure you watch OMG Fashion every Monday night on E. Carlos, it's been a pleasure, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Thank you.